For great ideas and practical tools you can start using tomorrow to grow your business and separate you from the competition, you've come to the right place. If you're into B2B marketing and sales, then welcome to the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast. With over 60 and counting total years in the trenches of businesses small and large, they have a plethora of knowledge and experience that generate you more leads, capture more clients, ring up more sales. Well, doggone it, just make you more money. How about that? Always thought-provoking, yet dubiously entertaining. Please welcome to their respective microphones across 3 time zones, your co-ringmasters, the Dave Loomis, and not the rock star, Steve Miller.
Waiting for you. And hey, everybody, it's Steve Miller, better known as Kelly's dad, marketing gunslinger, and I am here with Mr. Ready. Oh, no, wait. Mr. Voice.
Mr. Voice is ready. I am ready.
Listen to this guy. So I said, I'm Steve Miller. I'm Kelly's dad. I'm not the rock star. And I am here with my buddy, Dave Loomis, who I love calling him Mr. Voice. Bring it on. Bring it on, Mr. Voice. Give us your name.
Dave Loomis.
Dave Loomis. Look at that.
That was a little different. Than the past.
Maybe. It shows your versatility. Is what it shows.
There was, remember, anybody who's old enough, and it would probably not be most listeners, who may have listened to Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. Ed McMahon was such a good sidekick.
Yes,
he would often repeat the words that Johnny Carson would say.
He would often repeat the words that Johnny would say, and
correct.
Just really, you are correct, sir. So, So speaking of culture,
yes, were we?
Some people would say that I don't have any, and that's okay. But we're going to talk about it anyway. All right, we're going to talk about culture today, and I picked this topic, even though I really don't often get that much involved with working with companies on their culture. If it has to come to be, it has to come to be. But I know that you have a lot of experience doing this, and so I thought, okay, this would be a great opportunity for me to learn as well. So let's talk about culture in a B2B business. All right,
let's
or just talk about culture in business in general, and
yes,
and I guess my first question to you would be okay, what exactly is culture in a business? What exactly is it?
Great question. Yeah, I'm sure there's many definitions. I would say there's, just to keep it simple, it's the environment that people work in, and you can expand from there to include interpersonal communications and style and policies and support and all those things that kind of go around the individual and the team as a whole. And I think it probably, if you want to go even further, it can expand out these days into how the all these sort of quote unquote ESG, environmental sustainability and governance issues that are very hot right now, especially with investors.
What did you just say? ESG?
ESG, yes. That's like, well, environmental sustainability and governance. So the whole sustainability movement started with the term green, and then it went to sustainability, then it went to corporate social responsibility, and now it's into ESG.
Wow.
And what that is saying, if you're a public company, a public B company, but even for private ones, you have a bunch of stakeholders that are your employees, but also your suppliers, your customers, your community that you serve as a whole. Mm-hmm. So how are you doing taking care of them? Okay. Are you, how do you treat them? How and all sorts of things like that. So, I mean, I think that's That's what culture is. But I would say that what's one thing that's very interesting, it's kind of like a brand. Like, you know how a brand is really defined by the individual who perceives it in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Culture's like that too.
Really?
I think so. I think people, you could interview a bunch of people in a company and say, what's the culture? And I guarantee they wouldn't all say the exact same thing. They all feel it a little bit differently. This is a little woo-woo. This is a little bit more touchy-feely and qualitative than quantitative than some of the things that we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But and of course, since our podcast, which I did not give the name at the beginning, the B2B marketing and sales podcast, nailed it.
Ooh,
Highly unusual. I have a great big sign up here behind the camera, I want to eventually get it to where I'm asking, okay, so why is this important in marketing and sales? But for right now, I want to make sure that we better understand what it is. Yeah. So you're saying it's like an attitude, it's an environment of inside of a company. All right. You are you're certified, licensed.
A lot of people say that I'm certifiable.
Certifiable. I meant to use that word first, but I accidentally skipped right over to the business term, certified. And what is it that I'm going to ask. All right, first, tell me what it is that you're certified in, because it has to do with culture, right?
It does. It's called the Barrett Values Assessment. Barrett, Barrett, and it's out of the UK. And there's something called the Barrett Value Center, which I'm sure you know how to spell, CENTRE.
RE.
And yes,
Centra.
of course.
Centra.
Yeah, Centra. And it is its way of assessing an organization's culture from the standpoint of an individual, but if multiple individuals on a team or in a company take it, then there's lots of data crunching that produces a joint result.
A joint result. In other words, it's analyzing the culture.
Correct.
And I assume it's going to give you some type of a report that shows that either the culture is good or it's bad. I'm talking in very simple, very simplistic.
Sure, good and bad are obviously subjective terms, so it will help describe the culture in a number of ways. So just in short, it's a pretty interesting and easy yet behind the scenes complex a methodology to get it done. And here's what it is. There's only 3 questions. How do you as an individual perceive the culture? I'm sorry. How do you as an individual want? I'm gonna scratch that again. Okay. What are your personal values as an individual? Okay. What are your personal values? Second, how do you perceive the current culture of your organization? And then what do you want or aspire your current organization to be in terms of culture? And it's not like just write an essay or fill in the blank. You actually are asked for each of these 3 questions. You have like 50 words to choose from, 50, 70 words or whatever. And it's fascinating because you read all these words and you're like, shoot, I want to choose a ton of these. These are all good, but it forces you to make a choice of 10 words for each question. So you're just choosing 30 words across the 3 questions, and that's it. And what's really interesting is that a gap analysis can come out of it, especially if you can do it as an individual, and obviously you can look at those results and they are what they are. But if a whole bunch of individuals, 50 or 100 people do it, then you can that you can look at and see, here's how individuals feel about themselves in a summary fashion, but here's how they as a group perceive the current culture in these words, and here's what they'd like the culture to be like. And it's fascinating because a lot of times you can see great alignment. So, they've hired all the right people. People are in the right spot for them personally. And, their own personal values align with where the company is now and actually where they want it to be. And it's like, wow, that's a dream. But that barely ever happens. There's gaps. There's gaps between what my personal values are and what I think the company is actually doing right now. And there's gaps between where the company is and where we want the company to be. And what they've done to report it out is very interesting, because if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's basically sort of
the top one. I remember the top one.
Oh, self-actualization.
Pizza.
It's either pizza.
I was so close.
It's either pizza or cheese. Yeah, good point.
That's what it is. Self-actualization. That's right.
Self-actualization.
I forgot. Yeah.
Which basically is pizza.
It's pizza.
It's a reward, right, for a lot of hard work. So here, have some pizza. So what they've done is they take sort of the bottom, which is like safety, security. You got to have food and shelter and
shelter and stuff like that. Yeah.
Viability. And then they took the top one, that self-actualization, broke it into a bunch of, in like 3 or 4 pieces. So there's 7 levels of that they report out. And the words that you've chosen in those different questions relate to different levels. So there's, starting at the bottom, viability, relationships, performance. Those are sort of base things that, if you're being told every month or quarter, hit your numbers, and that's the culture in your company, then you're going to be down there in the bottom part of like sort of performance and viability and that sort of thing. Then there's sort of evolution, which is a pivot point. And then there's alignment, collaboration, and contribution goes out into, hey, I work for a B Corp or something that's, devoted to sustainability and bettering the world and environment or something like that. Or I work for Charity Water that, supplies water to, to Africa, things like that, where even the whole mission is about not just making a profit every single day. So it's cool to see, what I call the through lines, the consistency, if there is some, between personal values and current and future values of an organization. But then the gap analysis is cool because, like, if you look at your company and you say, they're just hounding me all the time. We have silos. We have, lack of communication. There's a few sort of words or questions in the current culture column that, you might be perceived as negative. So you said, is it bad or good culture? These would be probably bad if you had to make a judgment. And then, but you can see the connection that says, damn, I want open communication. So I want to make that jump from silos and guardedness to open communication and some other things. So it's a very interesting process, and I think that if companies can follow it or something like it, that it can help improve the environment for successful sales and marketing.
Is it, when you say that, okay, like the employees take this assessment and then it's all jumbled up and thrown into a computer, and then the computer spits out some type of an analysis of it. Is this also a report card on leadership?
Sure. I would say yes. I would say that it it definitely can be interpreted that way, because I think culture comes from leadership. Don't you?
Doesn't it come from the top?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Now I've seen, let's say that if a whole employee base is taking this, the answer to your question is absolutely yes. Sometimes like just a C-suite will take this assessment, which is interesting.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Or, you can ask, okay, the whole company's taking this, but identify different roles or levels, and then I want to see it sorted. I want to see the results cut by leadership, by role, by other things, and then some inconsistencies, can come out. There was one example that I saw of like a huge construction company, and all the management thought everything was fan-fricking-tastic. Right. And then, but they also gave the assessment to people who were like the workers who did the construction on the construction sites. And the results came back very differently in terms of what the culture was and the pressures that they basically got from above that, they couldn't take it anymore. It's like a warning sign,
Well, and isn't that the purpose though, to do something like this is it's sort of like it's taking the temperature of the company.
Yeah, you want to do it and see, do you have a fever?
Yeah.
And do you need do you need a cold bath or something different? Do you need a remedy? And who's going to do it if they don't want to, change or even know the truth? So
I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I think you have to have like sort of a somewhat open-minded or a progressive leader of a team or a group or the whole company that, actually says, yeah, let's pull the trigger on this. That sounds interesting.
It seems like you would also have to have a pretty strong stomach, or you would have to have a strong ego to go to, because if you're a leader of a company, if you're an owner of a company, or CEO or president or somebody like that, and you decide to do this and make it a company-wide study, you've got to be prepared to accept whatever results come back at you. And
you really do. I mean, it's always, like rainbows and unicorns when it comes back and it says, like sort of family and, understanding and, kumbaya. When it comes back divisive,
yeah,
what kind of conversation comes out of that?
Right.
And it doesn't, the results don't lie. That's the thing. They're totally confidential. So they're, no one knows who said them, but if enough people said them, perception is reality.
Yeah.
So they chose the word divisive. What does that mean? Let's talk about that. What's causing that? It's almost like a great conversation starter, but you gotta be ready for that conversation, as you said.
So now, okay, since we're pushing 20 minutes now already, now I want to ask, okay, how do you then use something like this in the sales and marketing world? How does something like this help a company to grow?
Right. Great question. I think that one of the things that is possible, since this Barrett Center that has all this data has done this for so many companies worldwide, that you can actually ask them that question and they can tell you, from our experience and the data and the reports that we've run before and the companies and the departments and things like that, high growth companies or marketing oriented companies tend to have or aspire to these particular words actually in the reporting, or or they're at these levels. Like literally, we can tell you that if most of the company's sort of words that come out of this are in the bottom three, like viability or relationships or performance, your employees are literally just struggling to get through the day and to react to all the demands that are on them. And so they're overstressed. There's probably minimal resources, and there may be somebody who's toxic either in the company or at the helm of the ship. They can definitely tell you that getting to some of these higher level ones, like evolution, alignment, collaboration, is going to have an extremely positive effect on effective sales and marketing and growth. I mean, that kind of sounds obvious. But, you know, if you want to tie it back to what we talk about this all the time, you and I, which is, are we just oriented towards ourselves as a company? Or are we actually, do we really care about the needs of our customers?
Right.
Which is what marketing is literally just fulfilling those needs.
Yeah.
You know, which comes first? Hey, I want to make a lot of money. Let me figure out how to do it. And I'm going to do it at any cost. Or, hey, I want to serve this market or these people. What do they need? I'm going to listen to them, and we're going to, you know, deliver on that. And by virtue of doing that, we're going to be incredibly successful.
And this actually, this just came to my mind that this actually sounds like a kind of a flipped version of the Net Promoter Score. That
yes,
that the Net Promoter Score asks the customers, right? And this is asking the employees. All right.
Would you recommend yourselves?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Would you recommend yourselves? And that it can be argued, and I think successfully argued, that that in fact the employees probably are more important than the customers. Now that in itself is can be debated all over the place. But if you don't have a culture where everybody is looking forward, not looking backward, they're looking forward, they're looking at the success of the whole of the body of the company. If they're not doing that, odds are they're not going to get very many customers.
Exactly. So, like, if you're out in the wilderness and you don't have any food or any shelter, you're going to spend all your time getting food and shelter, right, and, you know, trying to stay literally alive.
Right.
The last thing that you're going to do is to spend your spare time beautifying that environment or painting a picture of that incredible sunset that you see, or, you know, doing anything that's
right,
that's beyond just surviving.
Right.
And you know, how many companies are there like that right now?
On
both, I guess, on both sides. You know, there are some great ones.
Sure, there are. Sure, of course, there's you know, we've always got examples of companies who really do all of this really well.
Yeah.
In many of those cases, they do these things really, really well for this period of time. You know, companies go up and down. You know, their successes, their failures. They get new leaders, and the leaders change things. You know, it's like you know, what CEO was it that just came back in?
Schultz at Starbucks.
Howard Schultz, right? Howard Schultz at Starbucks, and he immediately cancels the $2 billion stock buyback. All right, you know, which the customers really, or I should say, the shareholders the stakeholders who are called shareholders, they were really excited about that buyback.
Of course they were.
And he comes in and he cancels it, and he says, we're going to put that money towards our employees.
Yeah, it needed to be invested back. We're going
to go back to taking better care of our employees. So you see, this is what I'm kind of talking about. Is I'm saying that there's this balance act of the employees versus the customers or the stockholders, whatever, shareholders or whatever.
Yes.
And Schultz is back for the third time now.
Right.
And he, I don't want to get into the discussion of unionization or anything like that at Starbucks, but that's kind of the center of all of this. And, but he has always felt like if he took really, really good care of his employees would take really, really good care of his customers.
Absolutely. And they wouldn't really, the whole reason why, if you look at the history of unions, not to get into it, but, it's because employees weren't being taken care of.
And you know what? And so
capitalism and business has not always been the kindest to everyone.
No. And, so yeah, like I say, that's a totally different discussion, but
it really is. But positive culture and striving for some of these things. So, you said it, which is take your temperature. Like you can't create a prescription for changing things unless you have a diagnosis.
Right.
So
that's called malpractice.
First assess, understand the situation, and then try and create some programs to get you from here to there. Right.
And I'm going to tell all our listeners and our viewers that if you would like to take the temperature of your company, all right, contact Mr. Voice here. All right, reach out to him. He will help you do that, and we'll help you take that, put that assessment together for your own company. Don't contact me.
If you contact Steve, he'll just tell you contact me.
That's what I'll do. So, and then that'll be a referral, and I'll get a commission. So contact me. So all right. I think I have to wrap this one up, my friend.
Fantastic. And, this was fun. Yeah, we should just talk about me every one of these episodes.
You know what? I think that's what we should
Let's just do that.
From now
on.
Should
we rename the podcast?
We should. We'll just call it.
No. I'm kidding.
Mr. Voice's
No.
Marketing and Sales.
Next time. Great questions, Steve. I'm glad you teed all those up. I'll take us out. How about that?
Please do.
You all have been listening to the B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast with Steve Miller, not the rock star, Kelly's dad. And are there other things?
There are.
There are other things. Yeah. Okay.
Some people call me Maurice.
I'm not going to make that sound, but I could have. Anyhow, we digress. But please continue to listen. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, the source for B2B marketing and sales insight. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave these old guys a 5-star rating. Check the show notes for any links and contact information. You can always contact us by going to b2bmarketingsalespodcast.com. Thank you, and keep on marketing, keep on selling.